I get asked, why did you go through all of this? First of all, I think this thing's worth saving. My family and I, we've put 30 years into it, and it means a lot to us, and I think it'll mean a lot to future generations. Where else is a kid, you know, 150, 200 years from now, going to be able to see anything like this? Because there's no other house like this in the world now, and there's so many things incorporated into it that it's special. But also, because of guys like my dad. It's my dad there. My dad, Navy pilot, he got killed in Korea. And a guy like Jimmy Stewart. Now, I didn't even like Jimmy Stewart at the time. I knew he was an actor. I was working for Pacific Telephone in Beverly Hills. It was in the late 70s. Well, I get the job, and it said the Stewarts on it. The housekeeper, when I went inside, the first thing she said to me was, don't say anything to Mr. Stewart about World War II, because it ticks him off. And I didn't know at the time that he had flown B-17s, like 25 missions in Germany. He was a pilot. I finished doing all that, and I went into the den, and he says, well, you got it all done, young man? That's my Jimmy Stewart voice. I'm like, yeah, I got it all done. I said, I did the whole 9 yards. Man, he got pissed. His face went white. And he kind of leaned forward, and he says, don't you say that. Don't you ever say that. And the housekeeper came running into the room. She says, you just come on. You're upsetting Mr. Stewart. You just get out of here right now. You come on. I said, I just said something about football. I don't know what he's all ticked off about. So he hears me say that, and he goes, hold on, hold on. He says, Martha, or whatever her name is, you go on. He goes, you come down here. You sit down here. And he said, when you went on missions, before you went, the armorers and the weapons crews and the guys that checked your plane and the fuel and all that, they would get all the ammo for your 50 cows, and they would roll out all the ammunition. They'd check all the links that tie the ammo on the belts, and that ammo came out to 9 yards long. He says, you haven't had to do anything like that. He says, we were all young guys. We didn't want to die, but we had to step up. We had to do what was needed. He goes, someday you're going to have to step up to the plate. Whatever you did, there's going to be the same thing, an equivalent. Like when I would go into a break room and there'd be a fella sitting off over there by himself, not saying anything, just staring out an empty window. And you know the fella, but you don't want to bother him, and you know. He gave him the whole 9 yards. Because you think about that. Well, years went by, and you know, I never really said it again. I knew what it meant, and it wasn't that big of a deal. Until I went to the DA thing here in 2006. And he told me that he wasn't going to give me a permit. He goes, I don't care what you do, Mr. Fahey. Your place, it's coming down. The whole 9 yards. And I'll tell you what, a chill ran up and down my back. And I thought, oh my God, man. Now I understand. It took all that time. Like, it chokes me up when I think about it. All that was he was trying to tell me, I never really got until it affected me. Jimmy had told me that years ago, and all of a sudden it made sense. You got to step up, and you've got your crises and your time, and you got to face up to it.
Kim started it years ago in the front. He had the front house, and he built one of the tree houses for his oldest son.
It was going to be a bedroom and bathroom, but the county shut me down. That was back in the 80s. They said if I did any more work to it, they would come tear it down.
And then he built a playhouse in the backyard up there.
I figured I better start playing ball, doing things correctly. So that's when I went and made my initial foray into being legit.
Then he set up the bridges that have the garden rooms in them. And it was set up so that they would accommodate wheelchairs. And then it just sort of grew.
I went down to get the permit. That's where my nightmare began. I got the engineered plans, I took them down there. All these things, they red marked on it, page after page out of 6 pages. There was just red marks everywhere and circles and no, and I had to hire a professional engineer that is licensed and bonded, and he can stamp the plans. Well, I finally accomplished all that, and in the meantime, I wasn't hearing back from them. I was calling them, and they weren't calling me back. Then I went down there, and they lost my plans. Because they kept saying that regional planning has them, or come back next week and they'll be all squared away. I fell for that for 2 months. Finally, they just out and out told me, we lost your plans. You're gonna have to give us new copies. I said, I don't have the money. You guys lost my plans. I'm trying to do the correct thing here. And The guy says, too bad. That's what he said to me. He just smirked at me, the guy behind the counter, like, too bad. So I built it. I just went ahead and built it. And nobody ever came out for 11 years. And they didn't care. I started building walls. I built another little toy house over there. I added this room on. I built that bridge. Then I wanted to build my barn. So in 95 or 96, right around there, this is 12 years later, once again took in plans, but this time I got them off of an architect, and he guaranteed me. He said, if these don't pass, I'll do the corrections for free. He was so confident. I took them in. The knuckleheads lost them again. But I had a second set. You know, I had copies made. So I said, okay. I took the second set in, and he said, well, you don't have to worry about that because we're denying you. I said, what do you mean you're denying me? They said, well, you're zoned A1, and you're only technically allowed one structure there. And I said, well, I've got to connect it with the bridge. I read your rules that said if buildings are connected to the same building. He goes, we don't care. We don't care what it says. We're denying you. I go, but you took all my money. They knew they were going to deny me from the very beginning. They knew they were going to shake money out of me and then tell me no. And they were gleeful about it. They were joyful. They smirk at you like, too bad. We've got your money, and no, you can't build your barn. We said no, and no means no. And I said, this just isn't right, and I just started building the barn. And I thought to myself, if they come back, I'm just going to go to court. I'm going to let everybody know the kind of crooks these people are. Because that's how mad I was. I thought, I can't build my barn on my ranch property that I pay the taxes for and the land payments, and nobody ever came out here. I built the whole barn. No notices. They didn't care. And in 2006, I went to one of these waterworks meetings, and I told them what a joke all of his policies were. It was just to suck money out of people, and it wasn't going to help anybody, and they were ridiculous policies.
Kim is very outspoken, and there have been some occasions when he was outspoken and upset some people who were in higher positions. And after that happened, the legal action started.
Well, on the 7-year question, how can they give you 7 years? You're going to do 7 years in jail. You reach a point where you have an epiphany, where you say to yourself, am I really going to stand up for my rights, or am I going to fold? And I finally said to myself, well, I'm not folding, so I'm going to have to step up to the plate. Like I told you, Jimmy Stewart in that story told me. Is this mean enough to me to take, shots on the jaw and to start fighting? If I lose, I'll do the 7 years. It's worth doing 7 years. Why would they want to keep a guy locked up that's got no criminal history? I haven't been in any trouble. Maybe that's the whole ploy of the county, to make it so horrendous that people just, I don't want to do 7 years, take my place. Well, I love my place and I love my family, and I'll do the 7 years.
We've been involved in this now for several years, since 2007. And it's just been ongoing. It just doesn't stop.
People go, how'd they get you with 15 counts? Well, this bridge here, see this bridge? This is 6 of my counts. 6-month charge on each count.
They want it taken down. That's what they want. We don't. But we're just going to have to wait and see what happens at this point.
That's really wonderful what he did. Just your opinion, Mom, about the house. What do you think? Is the guy have to give? That's what they
opinion of neighbors.
Okay, it should stay. That's his heart and soul that went into that house. There's nothing wrong with it. I'm his neighbor. If there was a problem, I would have said something. He knows. We've been neighbors for 22 years.
Here's that 20 bucks.
Hey, yeah, okay. No, really, this is his heart and soul. It's not hurting anybody. So I don't know why I can't stay.
Oh, I absolutely don't think that Kim's home's an eyesore. It's actually it's something to look at. It's a conversation piece. I think it's unique, and I have no problem with it at all whatsoever.
And I'm going to tell you, what he was doing up there, I think was just a fabulous thing for somebody to do. He's just showing his heart in the things that he does, and his imagination is just unbelievable.
You won't find anything like this in a book or anything like this. This comes from a genius mind, the building that he does, and he builds it solid.
We've known him for like 25 years, and I love the guy. He's raised my children, we've raised his children. We've had a wonderful life here in Acton.
Kim's a very community type guy, I think. You know, he's known all of us kids as we were growing up, and I think he's helped every one of us in one way or another.
I know he's volunteer fire department. He's pro Acton all the way. He loves this town. He's got a lot of friends in this town, tons of friends. It's an unfortunate situation what's happening entirely, I think.
He's got perspective. It's beautiful. That's all I can say. I love the guy, and that's it.
We had a court-appointed expert witness who was a wonderful man, Mr. Zerg, and he had come out. He'd looked at the buildings. He'd spent a lot of time out here. We didn't have the money to pay for him. So ultimately, we didn't have an expert witness until the weekend before the trial started. And he called and said that he would testify free, that he felt very strongly about this place and he wanted to testify for us. However, the court would not allow him to testify. So there was no one to refute whether the building was safe or not safe.
They couldn't find one thing wrong with my engineering. I was found guilty of not having a permit. That's it, a misdemeanor. And quite frankly, I sleep pretty good at night knowing I'm a convicted treehouse builder. I told them it all breaks down to you could scrape this entire property, every bit of material that I've used, put it into a giant rocket and fire it into the sun. And that's not going to change the 30 years of fun we had building this place and the great times we had.
It's got a lot of years worth of work in it, and you know, it's home.
I just need help getting the powers that be off my back so I can finish my building, my art, my idea, my vision. I don't really need any money. I built this whole place without any money. It wouldn't be this place if I had unlimited funds, because then I would go buy things and it would look conventional. See what I mean?
People give us a lot of used building materials, doors, windows, stained glass, doorknobs.
And I had so much stuff, people started showing up here wanting to buy it or trade. And plus some of these articles, like a big beam. I'm not going to spend $3,000 for a big beam. So if somebody offers me a trade for, get those 4 beams out of my driveway for 6 of your telephone poles. I got plenty of telephone poles.
We reuse a lot of things. If we have something we can't use and someone else can use it, we pass it on. All of the kitchen scraps go to the turkeys and the chickens. The rabbit manure goes to the garden. It's kind of the way it is out here. You know, it's a cycle of life.
People can enjoy this for hundreds of years, because this thing's built, man. This place is going to be rock solid when I'm done. And kids 100 years from now, you know what kind of a blast they're going to have running around this joint? They're going to have a blast. You get here and it's different. It's like, hey, this is real.
There's very little individuality left, and there's not a lot of space for people who are different, no matter what their different feature is.
When you go to these shopping centers or these housing tracts, all they care about is the wall being straight up and down, and is the plaster smoothed. And when you're in a building this big and you have to worry about somebody getting hurt, you got to do it correctly. You can't take any shortcuts. So if it calls for something else, I'll add something to it now. I remember what I was taught. Do it right. Integrity. What if somebody gets hurt because of something I did? That's like the worst sin of all. I've had people on my Facebook Let's get a bunch of people together and we'll get guns. They can't stop us and we'll cordon it, and I'd rather see it torn down. I don't want one person hurt over this. That's not what this place is for. I'd rather see it gone. It would destroy the whole purpose. This place is for kids to have fun and people to relax and old people to sit in a nice comfortable chair with a kick-ass view and maybe have a little glass of wine and talk with some people and play Scrabble. I guess that's pretty much it in a nutshell. Just a place for people to enjoy themselves.